Hello, welcome to the Self-Learning Podcast by Dr. Sushma Singh. Let us start discussion on Unit 16, Measures of Central Tendencies. After dealing with the skills of sampling techniques for studying large complex social groups, we would now discuss the matter of measuring central tendencies and its application. This unit deals with the basic measures of central tendency and their application for those of you who may lack a strong background in mathematics. In doing so, complex mathematical derivations of formula have been omitted, besides a minimal number of essential shorthand mathematical symbols and familiar examples drawn from social science data are represented in a non-mathematical form. The first one is mean. Mean is the most common and widely used measure of central tendency. Each observation in a population may be referred to as X. Read as X sub-value I. Thus, one observation might be denoted as xi, another as x2, a third is x3, and so on. The subscript 1 might be any integer value up through n. The total number of xi values in population. The mean of the population is denoted by the Greek letter lowercase mu. Let us move to the next point, median. Median is the score that divides the distribution into halves. Half of the scores are above the mean and other half are below it when the data are arranged in a numerical order. Median is also referred to as the score at the 50th percentile in the distribution. The next one is mode. Mode of a distribution is simply defined as the most frequent or common score in the distribution. Mode is the point or value of x that corresponds to the highest point on the distribution. If the highest frequency is shared by more than one value, the distribution is said to be multimodal. It is not uncommon to see distributions that are bimodal, reflecting peaks in scoring at two different points in the distribution. Now let us move to the next point, relationship between mean, mode and median. Mean, mode and median, the three measures of central tendency, are related to each other and can be calculated using the following equation. Mode is equal to 3 median minus 2 mean. The values of mean, mode and median are the same when the frequency is normally distributed, but their values differ when the frequency is positively or negatively skewed. The relationship of mean, mode and median in various types of frequency distributions like normal distribution, bimodal distribution, positively skewed distribution, negatively skewed distributions. Values of variables are along x-axis and the frequencies are along y-axis. After learning about the relationship among the three measures of central tendency, let us find out how to decide which of the three to choose for one's research. Now the topic is choosing a measure of central tendency. Sometimes the researcher has to decide which of the three measures of the central tendency to choose. The following advice may be of help. Mean is a doubtless the most commonly used measure of central tendency. It is the only one of the three measures which uses all the information available in a set of data. That is to say, it reflects the value of each score in a distribution. It has the decided advantage of being capable of combining with the means of other groups measured on the same variable. For example, from the average unemployment levels in various states of India, one can compute the overall mean unemployment rate of India. Since neither the median nor the mode is based on arithmetic, this useful application is not possible. The precisely defined mathematical value of the mean allows the other advanced statistical techniques to be based on it too. There are occasions, however, when taking into account the value of every score in a distribution can give a distorted picture of the data. For example, marriage distance, the distance between the places of residence of the two partners, in 5 cases of is 40, 60, 60, 80 and 810. Without a very atypical score of 810, the mean score of the group is 60 and the median likewise is 60. The effect of introducing the score of 810 is to pull the mean in the direction of that extreme value. The mean now becomes 210, a value that is unrepresentative of the series. The median remains 60, providing a more realistic description of the distribution than the mean. With these observations in mind, let us discuss the use of the mean. When the scores in a distribution are more or less symmetrically grouped about a central point, when the research problem requires a measure of central tendency that will also form the basis of other statistics, such as measures of variability or measures of association. When the research problem requires the combination of mean with the means of other groups measured on the same variable, to measure the central tendency in a sample of observations, when one needs to estimate the value of a corresponding mean of the population from which the sample is taken, when the interval level or ratio level data providing that the distribution of scores approximates a normal curve. Now let us discuss the use of the median. When the researcher problems calls for knowledge of the exact midpoint of a distribution, when extreme scores are there in the series, as they distort the mean but not the median, particularly when dealing with the oddly shaped distributions. For example, those in which a high proportion of extremely high scores occur, as well as a low proportion of extremely low score ones. Now the next point is use of the mode. When all that is required is a quick and appropriate way of determining central tendency. When in referring to what is average? The word is used in the sense of the typical or the most usual. For example, in talking about the average home take pay of the coffee plantation worker, it is the model wage that is being alluded to rather than an abject arithmetic average. Now let us conclude the unit. Scantily mode would be the appropriate statistic to use as a measure of the most fashionable or most popular when data are collected using a nominal scale. Median would generally be associated with the ordinal level data. Mean will be used with interval level or ratio level data, providing that the distribution of scores approximates a normal curve. You can take mean to be a mathematical measure and median mode to be the positional measures. You can always cluster your observations around a central value. A central value manifests both the distribution and the comparison of various distributions. It is always useful for a researcher to provide measures that indicate the average feature of a frequency distribution. This unit has discussed the three measures of central tendency and provided skills of basic statistical tools for application in your research. It would have become apparent to you that the three measures of the central tendency, namely average of all the values in the distribution or mean, midpoint of the distribution or median, and highest density in the distribution or mode, are not to applied in a mechanical way. In the light of the objective of your study, you would need to determine when you are to use which measure. You have learnt in unit that a graphic representation of distributions shows either a symmetrical or a skewed pattern. In symmetrical type, you will find that the three values coincide. This provides you the option of using the mean. In the case of bimodal or multimodal representation, you would do better to use the mode. In skewed distribution, if the tail is on the right side, it indicates the positive skewing of distribution. If the tail is on the left side, it shows a negative skewed distribution. For both the negative and the positive types of skewing of distribution, you would do better by using the median measure of the central tendency. You may want to work out with the help of this unit the type of measure of central tendency you will use in your mini research project. Now let us wind up the session, and we have come to the end of the unit. Thank you very much for engaging yourself with the self-learning podcast.